And this is going to be it for attendance?
We're
1, 2,
just
3,
expecting
4.
four.
Well, I have, yep, that's it. I thought Chris Davis said,
That's still doing.
they're putting all the name tags out.
All right. We'll call the meeting to order. Good afternoon. This is a special Hagerstown Planning Commission meeting called on a specific purpose to review a revision of the comprehensive plan, but we're adding also a development review, taking the opportunity to add development review. Agenda item. My name is Doug Wright. With the commissioners who are with me today, Ron Thomas, who is in building with me, is on meeting right, and then joining us virtually is Shelley McIntyre and Jim Stone. We might have one additional join us shortly. Also in the room with me, Kathy Marr, City of Hagerstown, zoning, planning director and enforcement director, or something like that.
Whoa.
We'll certainly referred to as a planning director. Steve Bachmiller, our zoning administrator, Debbie Hawk, who is Amy Hawk,
Okay.
who's our secretary. And we have one other guest who will introduce himself shortly.
And Chris just joined as well.
Chris has joined us, yes. And Megan Flick is with us too, city planner. All righty. Then our development review case is site plan subdivision plat approval for 1150 Professional Boulevard.
Okay, this is site plan ZS 2021-09 and subdivision plat S 2021-07. This is for the expansion of a parking lot and also the acquisition and incorporation of lands from an adjacent property into that property where the parking lot is to be built. Excuse me, the subdivision plat file is S 2021-07. This should read this, the report should read this site plan, not sketch plan. The site plan is for the acquisition of land from an adjacent property and development of that area for an expanded parking lot. The SD sketch plan was reviewed by this commission in May. Forest conservation will not be required as this is part of the pre-1991 subdivision and is therefore exempt. The applicant is obtaining 0.57 acres of land from the property to the rear. On this land, a semicircular extension, parking lot extension connecting parking lots on both sides of the building will be constructed to contain 34 parking spaces. The two lots are not connected at this time, but will be with the completion of this parking expansion. Drivers will be able to drive entirely around the building. Lighting will be provided. Due to grade drop-off, guardrail will be installed along the north edge of the new lot. In response to feedback from your meeting with the ESD sketch plan, when it was approved, they have provided a row of 14 Leyland cypress trees along the new northwest property line to shield this parking from the institutional residential use on the adjacent property. No PRC meeting was held due to the pandemic. The following approvals apply. Approvals have been obtained from the police department. The site plan have been obtained from the police department, the fire marshal, health, state highway administration, water, wastewater planning. And also we did receive complete approval from the city engineer today. So the site plan is clean.
Okay.
Subdivision plat approvals from the fire marshal, city engineer, wastewater, state highway, water, and planning. So that's also clean. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
If you don't mind, I'd like to suggest we do this two different votes. One is the approval of the subdivision or division or adjoining or the new plat. And then we'll go to the site plan. So that's as shown on the screen. Addition of 0.57 acres. Pretty simple. straightforward.
Doesn't look like you're going.
Any questions for the commissioner?
Retaining wall.
I don't think that was what we approved the last time we met, is that correct?
Well, we were told that this was coming too.
Okay,
This is just the new plat.
okay. I don't see any problems with it.
Anybody online?
I have no questions.
See no problem with it.
Would you want to turn
Is
that
there a
in?
motion, Doug?
Yeah, I'm looking for one.
Oh, okay.
I make a motion that we approve the subdivision plat.
Well, thank you.
Second.
Second, all right. Any further discussion on the motion? We ready to vote? All's in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, I rule it passes unanimously. All right, we can go on to the site plan now. As Steve said, we have seen this before. Glad to see they added the screen. There's trees. Any other inputs you want to give us?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, any questions from the commissioners?
There is a representative from Frederick Cyber Associates here if you do have any questions directly from them, although
May not be a answer, but I give it a shot.
he's the deep reserve staff on this project.
Okay. We'll try not to stress you.
I appreciate that.
I move that we accept the site plan as presented.
Second.
Motion made then to approve site plan as submitted. Did you get the seconder? Is that Chris?
Shelley.
Shelley.
Kelly. Okay.
I'm sorry, who moved in 2 seconds?
I move.
Ron
Ron and
moved
Chris.
and Shelley second.
Shelley.
Are we ready to vote? Hearing no objections, I'll call for the vote. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, I rule that it's passed unanimously.
Okay, we're done.
Doesn't make that.
Tell all your friends.
I'll come on. Thank you.
You get us a special meeting, it really rolls. Okay, Kathy, we are now going to address the revision to the comprehensive plan.
Right, at the last meeting, we reviewed in concept what we were gonna do for the comprehensive plan and got direction from planning commission about removing the north leg of our Paul Smith Boulevard, the addition of the new road alignments, and the other Harrison tracks, update on the transportation planning of the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Organization, and update on 3 transportation improvement projects completed since 2018. So in the packet, you have the existing transportation element and the changes noted in red in the text. So you would start seeing that on page 5-7. And that's an update to some of the projects that are listed from the last long-range transportation plan that was in place when we adopted our plan. So that's removing as a current project, Southern Boulevard Phase 1, and adding as a current project, extension of professional court to Meredith Medical Center. Also added, so it'd be easier for people to follow along after each project, what their symbol is from the chart. And then for future projects, removed extension of professional court since it's been added to current. And then projects completed since 2018, the Southern Boulevard Phase 1, Creighton Boulevard, and Edgewood Drive, widening to 4 lanes from Haywood Circle to Howell Road. So then at the bottom of the page, there's a new section called 21 Update on our Paul Smith Boulevard and Proposed Roads on Harrison Lands. And it describes what we decided that we wanted to recommend for transportation improvements. And it refers to a new map, which we handed out today. It's hot off the presses, a new map 5.5, and that one is titled Local Recommended Upgrades to make a distinction from the long-range transportation plan of the MPO. Those local recommended upgrades for 2021, and it shows It's no longer showing our Paul Smith going from Edgewood up to Howell to cross over to the dual highway. It does show the Southern Boulevard. It shows how Edgewood would curl up into Southern Boulevard when it's extended and intersecting with Edgewood and R. Paul Smith. Shows the extension of R. Paul Smith as it did before, going around, crossing over Heb, Emmert, and going over to alternate 40. We have modified the map slightly so it goes around and stays within Funkstown. Since it seems to be, it's going to be a city in Funkstown discussion about R. Paul Smith Boulevard and the extensions below Heb Road. And then it also shows the extension up from R. Paul Smith Boulevard to the dual highway near Bird Tire, and then crossing over into the other Harrison tract on the east or north side of the dual highway. It shows a connection from that road to Redwood, so people who live in the Redwood area could come over to this new road and get to a light, because right now they only have a right out from their street. And the state highway has indicated they want that linked over, so it's a safer situation for that traffic. Shows Day Road connecting over to this new road, as was discussed at the last meeting. And it shows, a hypothetical of getting over to Fairway Meadows, I think it's called, or is it Fairway Meadows. And then also something we hadn't talked about last time, but it's showing the recommendations for how the Dowd Farm is intended to access up to the dual highway, which was discussions that occurred a couple of years ago with the state highway and a plan for how that would work. And then a connection across that way to get you over to Heb. So those two things down there are not mentioned in the text. We realized as we were making the map, that we were getting these alignments from engineers, that this was on there as something we've talked about before. So if you're in agreement with having it in the plan, I should add something to the text that references it.
So you did do a slight realignment as it crosses Beaver Creek to
Right.
avoid that development entirely.
To avoid the unincorporated area that's fully developed with houses.
Oh, that's fully, okay.
The pink is the unincorporated area. So it's just showing it in the white, which is the city, and the dark gray, which is the city of town of Funkstown.
Isn't there a new development going right there in that pink area?
No, it's in the gray area in Funkstown. The
Okay,
pink area is fully developed.
all right.
A bunch of houses went in there in 08, 09, I think, in that time frame, or maybe the early teens. But it's fully houses all the way across there now.
Where they are developing. This, right?
Right. That has a development plan and a partial plat over on the left side of the pink unincorporated area. We're still showing it because a traffic study is being done. Once we get the results of that traffic study that's related to the Reese tract in the city, then we can have further discussions with the planning commission about R. Paul Smith from Heb to alternate 40. But at this point, we don't have those results, so we're just showing it here, but showing it as something that would be, if it's going to happen in a city in Funkstown.
So we would probably address this again at some point.
Yes.
Randy Cohen has dedicated a piece of road off of Alston for a 4-star All-Star. That's just way down the road in the future.
Did that get dropped
I-
with their development?
I think his development now is kind of compromised all that. He can't really get over to any of these other roads, can he?
I think that office building might be in the path.
Yeah,
Did-
that's what I mean.
Well, last site plan we approved, it was still there.
It
One
was,
block.
yeah.
It was just past the second
I'd have to go pull the site. plan.
second hotel.
Potentially like something in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he would like that. That could happen, but I don't think he controls any of this land.
no, a lot of that is,
Car dealership.
yeah,
Yeah. Hamilton.
Hamilton, that's a,
I'm surprised the right of way area shown right in here. Because it was basically roughly lined up the, connected with this line here.
could well be, it's somewhere in there. there's the 2 hotels and then the right of way dedicated. We had them dedicated some time ago.
So between the 2 hotels and the new office building? Because he's
I
also
thought they
got
were, I didn't know they were office buildings. I thought they were hotels.
2 hotels and a little office
Uh,
/ retail kind of building.
the last site plan was 2 hotels and then, oh, there was a office building. And
Yeah,
it was just past that.
Past that, yeah, and
Yeah.
on the same, all on the
Oh,
same
okay,
side.
so we're
Getting
still
fuzzy.
showing that road.
Find out.
Well, but do we need to know now? I mean,
I guess it's a matter of whether you want to show a connection there on the plan. That
I
was
think
sent.
we need to study whether we can go somewhere also, don't we? Or you? I don't think we just ought to go willy-nilly and stick it on there. And we can review it when you come back with a realignment based upon the traffic study.
That's true, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, on that traffic study, just so I'm clear, where the cursor is sitting at now, that's the Reese farm, I believe,
no, the white part.
the white part to
The
the
pink is-
left.
the pink is outside the city. Where Paul Smith goes through a white part between Heaven and Emmert, that's Reese.
Left.
To the left. To the left, Megan,
Further left.
further
Even
left.
further.
There you go. That's the Reese track. What I think we have an understanding with Mr. Laus is he will do a traffic study 2 ways. One is with this road going through and what that means to traffic mitigation in Funkstown and different, where the traffic goes to, basically. And then another part of that study would be without that road going through there to see how it loads the roads that are there now and see if it works. And then we'll go from there once we get that information.
Good. That's good. Do you I try to go back quickly and find it. Do you reference map 5.5 in your rework?
Yes.
Where is
That is on the very top of page 5-9. First full sentence.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's just right now focus on 5.5. Any thoughts from any commissioners?
Well, I guess we don't really have any choice, but that piece of land that Funkstown approved for development that now we show our lines sort of going around. I mean, that is pretty ugly. There's no way I take it that it's realistic for us to try to be able to go through that development.
So the development, Jim, is in the gray. The pink is outside of Funkstown.
Okay, well, but I'm sorry, yeah, but I mean, at our last meeting, we talked about that, and apparently that was that approved by the county?
The town of Funkstown.
Oh, they approved, okay. Huh. Well, I guess there's really nothing we can do. It just has to go around that.
So ironically, the only thing that's gonna hurt is phone.
When we left it with the stakeholder meeting that we had, the mayor of Funkstown was going to talk with his planning commission. But the traffic study that Mr. Laus is doing will give us a lot more information about the feasibility of that our Paul Smith, the southern middle leg. Because you would have to probably redesign Gaver Meadow to enable it to go through, to then get over to alternate 40.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thoughts on 5.5?
If not, the next section is the giving an update of the, or 2020 review of the updates of the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan, as we discussed at the last meeting. So it points out, and I noticed when I was writing the text, that in our plan, we were only talking about the projects that were in the MRGA. So I didn't add the Shawley project because that's outside. So it's showing one project removed from the MRGA, and that's the Robinwood Drive bypass in Maryland 64. Shawley, which was removed from the plan, is not in the MRGA. There's a lot of stuff that was talked about outside the MRGA, but our comp plan doesn't follow that. Just our area. And so then the projects added, the 4 projects we talked about, the projects added within the city. And then since the HEP MPO is in the process of updating, so our plan is based on 2040 Metropolitan Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan. They have a 2045 plan in effect now, which is what I just gave an update on how it changed from 2040. They're in the process of updating and creating, I guess they're going to call it the 2050 plan for adoption in May. So we're not proposing to make any changes to the HEP MPO, all the rest of the HEP MPO language in here at this time to make it switch from 2040 to 2045 because they're about to drop 2045 in favor of 2050. So that's what that last paragraph is saying, that once that happens, we'll look at it again.
Okay. I first off, I reread this list and I tried to think some more about where these are. Are they they're proposing a roundabout at Underpass Way and Halfway Boulevard. That's now a half a cloverleaf, isn't it?
I think that's where it comes in next to.
Yeah, grade separated half a cloverleaf.
Yeah.
And then you have to eat up a Starbucks, and that one really surprised me. But we can't comment on that, I guess. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous.
I'm still not quite sure. That's Halfway Boulevard and Railway.
Yeah,
Underpass Way.
Underpass Way.
Underpass
Which-
Way connects Railway and Halfway. Runs in front of the plaza.
There was the Plaza Hotel.
Oh,
It runs over now, it goes Underpass Way is the underpass under Halfway Boulevard.
Halfway Boulevard, okay.
And it goes over to Starbucks. That to me is kind of ridiculous.
These boulevard way.
Yeah, I sort of questioned that too, but it's not done, so I guess.
Fraser Boulevard is being widened to 4 lanes.
Well, I don't think it ever applied.
Yeah, that's what this recommendation in the long range plan is, 4 lanes. Yeah. And the other one
Oh,
that's
is that what that is?
Yeah.
Going to 4 lanes?
but like it is in the retail area, it's 4 lanes, but when you got into the area that previously had not been developed, that was 2 lanes. But right now, we're reconstructing it to be stronger 2 lanes. But yeah. Yeah.
There's some place 6 lanes wide.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't even get a sidewalk in there. How are you gonna get?
Yeah.
Do we just let it go? I mean, the city can't support widening Basil Boulevard.
Well, those are certainly recommendations we can pass on to the MPO for what they're doing now to update the 2045 plan, which has added this project. Now that they're working on the 2050 or 2051 or whatever they're going to call it, we can forward our comments saying we don't think this makes sense. And I don't know that we would either think that it makes sense to do a fly over the railroad from dead end to Western Maryland Parkway and connect it into Railway Lane.
I don't know how you're gonna get through there. Yeah,
I guess you'd have to go between Holiday Inn, well, no, Buffalo Wild Wings.
you have to go to the
And-
east
and the
of,
hotel?
the east of the old Roy Rogers. And you gotta take out or redesign extensively a stormwater management pond. For what value? I mean,
Plus
There's-
now
there's-
it's in the city. Before it wasn't.
Yeah, but there's not that much traffic on Western Maryland Parkway.
I guess it was for connectivity.
Well, I like connectivity, but should have built it 20 years ago.
But now that it's in the city, whereas before,
Yeah,
part of it was outside of the city, perhaps, it probably no longer would be a priority for the county. Just as we heard, Southern
Would-
Boulevard Phase 2 is not a priority because it's in the city.
since this is in a city's comprehensive plan, can we star those that we question or don't support and say that somewhere at the bottom?
Sure.
Projects not supported by the city of Hagerstown.
Sure.
Because someone could pick this up and reread and say, oh, they want to put that traffic circle in there.
Well, that's outside the city. Do we want to weigh in on that one?
Well, oh, I guess we don't, yeah. Well, it might soon. No, guess it never will be.
It would be tricky.
Yeah, it's pretty much surrounded on all sides.
Mhm.
Comes close.
Yeah.
Comes close.
So put an asterisk by the 2 projects added within the city in the 2045 plan, and then underneath put not supported by the city.
Yeah. And also, I didn't find them on any of the maps.
What?
Added projects.
No, we didn't modify the maps in our plan to reflect this.
Okay,
We were saying we weren't going to bother changing our plan to add in things they added in 2018 because they're in the process of changing it again.
fine.
They update that plan frequently. Every 4 or 5 years. It seems like they adopt one and immediately they're working on the next one.
Anybody else has anything to add?
We could make those, I think that's the only change, right? The asterisks with a note.
Yep,
And so then we'll get it together and send it out to the state, the county and Funkstown for the 60-day state clearinghouse review process. It has to happen before the planning commission have a public review meeting.
Okay.
And it seems like the soonest, I mean, assuming things go smoothly, we don't get a lot of comments from the state saying, what are you talking about? Then we get it back and we're ready to go. December would be the soonest we could have a public review meeting. The timing would not be right because in November, we only have 1 meeting.
I would not be surprised if there's a lot of public comment, or at least
Oh,
significant
yeah,
comment.
at a public meeting, yeah. Not necessarily on the
stuff.
plan, but on things that are happening in the area.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I guess we do need a motion to go to submit this to the review process.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? You ready to vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there any opposed?
Same.
I think that would have been Shelley abstaining.
Yes, she did. So hearing no negative votes, but 1 abstention, it passes unanimously. I guess that's a definition of unanimous, but somebody abstains. I think so.
Unanimous of those voting.
There were no negative votes. And also, we did, after the last tour of Walden, I was able to sit in with staff on a teleconference where they conversed with folks up in Silver Spring Township about pluses and minuses, likes and dislikes of that development, which I thought was very good. Steve, you want to lead that presentation?
Yeah, the teleconference included Kathy, Rodney, Steve Lohr, myself, Doug from the city. And then on the other side was the planning director for Silver Spring Township, Chris Marino, and Tim Murphy, who is the project engineer representing the developer on the project, which was a pleasant surprise to get that perspective. If we were expecting just to talk with the planning director, who said, hey, I'm bringing in the guy who actually designed this to be part of this meeting as well. So that was actually very helpful.
For the entire 15 years of this project, he has been the project designer, which I thought was really valuable.
That helps, yeah.
Seasoned developer, designer, or planner.
The biggest issue that I could recall from the conversation with the development was looking at the road design standards. That's one of the reasons why the development is entirely private. Basically, the developer had ideas on what the roads should be, but they didn't meet the township standards, so it ended up being a private development. And I think we saw some of those limitations when we did our field trip up there. Some of the places where you had to pull over in order to pass other cars, doing two-way traffic, things like that, some turning radii, et cetera, in certain places. That was kind of the thing that stuck out to me the most. But I figured I'm only one of 4 sets of ears who was on that conversation. So if the other 3 of you want to weigh in on your recollections, that'd be good too. I mean, it was a long conversation. We were on for probably about an hour and 10 minutes or so. It was a while. We were asking about specific design elements, the parks, the turn radii, all the stuff that we were picking up on at the on the field trip. One thing that they did mention is that the 0 lot line townhouses that look like old warehouse buildings were more of a condominium situation than they were actual fee simple ownership. I mean,
Well, the two things that caught my attention were the width of the road and what in the engineering world we call the minimum radius of the streets. Some of them were almost at a right angle instead of a broader, smoother curve. I think both of these things contribute to traffic calming, so that's a good thing. So I think we could update our standards to move in the direction that they are for both road width and the minimum radius. I just want to work with the fire chief on that to make sure that he's okay. And whatever he can live with, I'll be able to live with. And then we'll recommend that you all, pass. I would say that the planning commission ought to agree with it too. And then we can make those changes. So Steve and I are working on that.
One statement is our fire chief mentioned, I don't think it was when we were on the trip. He said that his folks has determined that they can go up to 400 feet from either a lugging hose and ladders, reasonable time from hydrants or from pumpers. And so we probably ought to make that a stipulation that no resident or farthest extreme of any resident can't be more than maybe 300 feet from any hydrant or any roadway that a pumper might be on.
this is mostly geared toward if you have a house that don't front a public street, that front an open space.
Right.
And he mentioned something about the width of the alleys also.
Yeah, the planning director up there was, he wasn't real thrilled with the alleys. I personally don't see the issue.
I don't
but
either,
that's
really.
one person's opinion. He said one of the things that they have, that they get complaints about, is people who complain about pulling out of their garage and on the street is a trash truck, which of course comes by for 5 minutes a week. And he says, the first question that he asks of them is, how long have you lived in the development? And of course, it's usually a matter of days. It's growing pains getting used to how to live in that environment. These alleys are designed for two-way traffic for regular vehicles. So speaking for myself, if I lived there and I ran into that situation, I pull out of my rear load garage into the alley and I look down one direction on this two-way alley and I see a trash truck in one direction, I'm going to go the other direction to get out onto the street. So personally, I don't see it as being an issue.
We have alleys all over town that are narrower than what they have, that are two-way, and they work. If people learn how to navigate
And
them.
if you have like my subdivision, it's only picked up once a week.
Yeah.
And you know which day that is,
And roughly what time they come through.
right?
But, I mean, I think the standard that they had, which was a 16-foot paved within a 20-foot right of way, which means 2 feet on either side of the pavement, I think is sufficient for subdivisions in the city. Plenty wide enough for a garbage truck, and it's wide enough for 2 cars to pass comfortably but slowly.
The one thing that the fire chief mentioned to me was the swing of the ladder truck and the outriggers, you know, with the narrow side alleys, because if you get those outriggers out, then if you got to get a truck through there, a small, even a pickup truck, will be difficult. And the swing of the ladder truck also would have posed a problem because they have a minimum distance that they, can swing. And when you get to that and you have to drop it down, you can't get down to where you want to be.
And
If a city ladder truck is set up in an alley, no pickup will be allowed to go around. So it's more a case of, is there enough width for the truck and the outriggers and to fight around it?
Yeah, well, I was using it as an example, but the big thing was the swing of the ladder truck. As opposed to being able to use the ladder truck as having to haul ladders down the street if you need to get to a certain point. That ladder truck, when it swings, it's so many feet long, and when you swing it, it's only going to be able to drop down so far.
that was actually one of the things that was discussed in some detail in that conversation with the folks up there. And the resolution is that we just need to look at our design of our fire trucks and then design the detail accordingly for the development of these things. So we don't run into that problem, because apparently there's issue, like I said, of the swing of the tail end of the track of a fire truck being more than just the width of the tires, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're aware of that, and we'll just need to account for that. And also, my brain is freezing up on the thing where they auto turn, where they do an auto turn. So when they design the subdivision, we give them the standards for what our fire apparatus is, and they'll have to show in an auto turn simulation how the equipment will get around and navigate the streets.
And even when we used to approve developments on private streets, we didn't approve them if they didn't meet what we needed for the fire truck. I found that a little surprising, the idea of, well, that's not going to meet our standards, so go ahead and build it, it's just private. Well, even if we were allowing private, we would make sure it worked for fire truck. We wouldn't just say, well, it's on you.
So, parks, we could discuss a whole lot. They are what they are. My thought is they're a little big for what we would want. Terra Park is nice, but I think it's kind of large. It's not to say that somebody couldn't build a larger park, but I would think that the parks that we would see would be more of the scale of the more modest parks that we saw in when we did our field trip, the ones like Three Trees Park and the other ones, where they're still several acres in size. It's just they're not the behemoth that Terra Park happens to be. But leave the regulations as we write them, or tweak them, I should say, open enough where somebody wants to do something like that. It's a good design and you all like it. Why not?
We don't want to limit that.
No, the idea is to make sure we have flexible standards, meet our needs while allowing the developer a lot of flexibility, because we want to be careful, because we're pushing our design engineers to think outside of the box and be more creative. And then at the same time, we don't want to be putting them in a box. So this past weekend, actually, it was let me back up for a second. Fire chief talked to the fire chief of another township up there, Lower Allen Township, I think it was, where there's another similar development that I wasn't previously aware of. The place is called Arcona. It's east of US 15, just below the Pennsylvania Turnpike below Harrisburg. Not all that far from this place. But I rode through it this weekend, and it's similar to Walden. I think Walden is the better product. I mean, it's not bad, but I like Walden better. There are certain things that I noticed in Arcona that we definitely need to stay away from. And that particular development had a more liberal use of front-loaded garages. And they had a lot of driveways that were less than a car length. And I saw a lot of cars hanging out on the sidewalks. So as we do our designs and we look at individual site plan or development plans for subdivisions, we're going to want to make sure that the driveways, if they are front-loaded, that they're designed appropriately to not have that problem. I saw one where the driveway was probably not more than 12 foot long, and they had a extended cab pickup full size sitting in it across the sidewalk into the driveway van to the curb of the street. So you literally had to walk into the street to walk around this truck. So I mean, it was a nice development. I don't want to sound like I'm critical of it, but if you compare it to Walden, Walden was definitely the better product. And I saw it had fewer issues. So,
Well, we like to avoid any front-loaded anyhow.
keep it to a minimum anyway, yeah.
Yeah, except those that can't get an alley in the back.
Yeah. And just as an FYI to everybody, we have 2 sketch plans currently pending for residential subdivisions in the city. We anticipate having them to you within the next planning commission meeting or 2. Both of them have rear load, some element of a rear load alley situation. One of them, we are getting them to design it to the anticipated standard that we're going to be having, the 2-way 12-foot wide or 20-foot wide, 16-foot pavement cross section. The other one, however, we're going to leave with the 1-way. We're not going to push for the 2-way just because it's a constrained property, and to force 2-way alleys would crush essentially the lot yield on the property. It's got a lot of environmental issues. So that one, we're just going to essentially suck it up. Ultimately, you have to approve the plan, but I'm just giving you a heads up that you will see one that's going to come in under older standards.
Except it has alleys.
Except that it has alleys. I mean, they initially came in with a front-loaded product. I want to be clear about that. We're actually looking at a rework of their initial submission. We told them, go back, try again. And they are accommodating us, but they have to stick with the 1-way alley just due to the site constraints of the site. So I figure that's a compromise we can easily make in this one particular situation.
And again, you know, you just go down, get on the main road, and go where you want to go. Even if you're all at the other end of the 1-way.
So with that, unless the 3 of you have anything additional you want to add to it, the next step is I am right now working on the 2021 package of text amendments, of which there will be a few tweaks to our zoning and subdivision ordinances to improve our expectations for this type of development. It's not an overhaul, it's not a rewrite, it's just tweaking a few things here and there. But it'll make it more directed toward traditional subdivision design and make the standards a little bit clearer.
But it does include other areas of the LMC that's recommended.
Oh, yeah, that's just gonna be part of the package. There's other things that we've been looking at, you know, we gather anything that we think needs to be addressed over the course of a year. Well, we're starting our yearly process again here, which usually takes 9 months.
You mean we didn't get it all right the first time, or second time, or third time?
Oh, we never get it right. Good news is the packages do get smaller and smaller every year. So, I'm hoping to have that actually ready for you to start reviewing at your next meeting. If not the first meeting in October, but I'm shooting for your next meeting.
Any questions of any of that, about all that?
I think it was a real good opportunity to take that trip to see what they have there.
If you might remember that the member of the community who happened to stop with the ice cream cone, talk with us, Tim. And he said something about he was kind of disappointed that they hadn't developed that last park. I asked about that and the city planner said that was really not part of the project. It was a piece of land that the city was supposed to absorb into their park. So it is still vacant land, but it's not the obligation of the developer to do that.
Is that property still in the ownership of the developer or?
I don't think it is.
Okay, so they
I wouldn't
have
let
no
them leave it.
obligation to do that.
Well, I don't know who owns it, but
Yeah.
they're not under obligation to develop it. And the plan is for the city to absorb it into an adjacent city park.
All I have.
All right. Anything else at all from anybody? We ready to adjourn? We're adjourned.
See you next time.
Bye.
Probably.